thank you all for coming back for the afternoon session. This second part of the seminar is going to be, now we're going to get into more of the skills aspect of the seminar, because unlike the other seminars I've done in the past, this one has a strong skills component to it, where we actually try to learn how to pronounce and recite the verses well. So having done some of the groundwork, we'll turn now to the actual language itself. And so at this point, so we're going to need the document pretty soon now on the screen. Okay, so the best place to begin with any language is, of course, the alphabet. And so I want to say a few words about the Sanskrit alphabet. I think because many of us here are familiar with the Sanskrit alphabet, which is more or less the same alphabet as today contemporary North Indian languages, so we won't need to go through it in as much detail. But I do want to say a few things about it first. So if we can turn to 1 second here. Okay, this page, but we need to turn it, and specifically this and that. So the left table, right table. So when I say left table, please expand this one. So the Sanskrit alphabet has a great virtue over the English alphabet, in that there's exactly one sound per letter. And what this means is that if you know how to pronounce the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet, you will be able to pronounce anything in Sanskrit. It's just a combination of those sounds, however many there are, about 46 or so. English also has many sounds, but the only reason we have only 26 letters in our alphabet is because each letter does double or triple duty with more than one sound. So the letter A, for example, does and A and A and ah, and so many different sounds are coalesced, which makes it necessary to learn spelling classes, for example, in English. We teach spelling because there's no correlation between pronunciation and writing. But in Sanskrit, because there's an exact one-to-one correlation, therefore there's no such thing as Sanskrit spelling classes. The only thing you need to learn is how to pronounce well, clearly, and if you know how to pronounce it, you will know how to write it, and you will know how to read verses and all of that. So Sanskrit pronunciation, though it can look daunting, it's still manageable because there's a finite number of letters that you need to know. Okay, first of all, the sounds of the alphabet are highly and very, very well organized. This is something that we take for granted if we know the language at all. But if you look historically in the West, it's been in the past 2 centuries or so that people have discovered that the sounds that we make as human beings can be mapped to different parts of the mouth and organized based on the quality of the sound. This is something that it took linguists very recently to discover this in the West. And already back more than 2,000 years ago, the great sage Panini, who is the most famous grammarian of Sanskrit, had classified this system. And when the German and British Indologists discovered this in the 1800s, they were blown away. They were shocked because it classified things and understood features of the language that were yet to be discovered in Europe, and the ways of analyzing the language. Even today, when they teach languages, they often use terms from the Sanskrit to describe certain grammatical features, because that's where everyone first learned it in the West, is from the Sanskrit itself. So this order is very, very special. And Jiva Goswami, he wrote a grammar called the Harinamamrita Vyakarana. You see, Panini is the greatest of the Sanskrit grammarians. He's one of the original sages. It is said that at the beginning of creation, Lord Shiva did his Tandava dance, and he played his damaru. And the sounds of that dance, his dance steps, and the sounds of his little drum were heard by different sages, and each heard them in different ways. So the great sage Bharata Muni heard those sounds and created the Natya Shastra, which is the original document, scripture that describes dance and music and drama. Another one of the sages was Panini, and he heard that sound, and he heard the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. Gakha, gagha, like that. Nga, cha, 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 like that. And he came up with the whole science of language as he heard it. So these sets of sounds are considered divine. They in themselves have a lot of spiritual power, and they're deeply connected with our theology. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he mentions the Sanskrit alphabet, and he says, of all the different letters, I am Aksharanam Akarosmi. I am the letter A or the letter A. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, he explains one line of the alphabet, because our acharyas do, as Pa-varga. Each one of the lines of the alphabet are named after the first letter. And one of the lines is Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma, right? And this is called Pa-varga. A very ancient word, Pa-varga, means this material creation, this material life. And it comes from each letter of the alphabet meaning something else, right? Pa refers to parishrama, the hard work that we do in this material world. Pa means the pena, or the foam that comes to the mouth when we work that hard. We see this happening sometimes, especially amongst animals. Pa. Then Ba refers to the bandhana, or the bondage that work creates, because now you're stuck in a rat race and you can't get out. And then Bha refers to bhaya. Once we're all tied in and enmeshed, then we develop fear that we're going to lose what we worked so hard to get. And that fear eventually leads us to Ma, which is mrityu, right, or death. So Pa, Pa, Ba, Bha, Ma, that line of the Sanskrit alphabet is the story of our life in this material world. And, and the liberation, therefore, is called Apavarga, right? And Apavarga refers to freedom from this material world, or freedom from that line of the Sanskrit alphabet. This is found in the this verse in Bhagavatam. Krishna Krishna Mahabaho Bhaktanam Abhayankara Tvameko Sarvam Dayimam Apavargosi Samsrite, right? Apavargosi Samsrite. That this is, I think, who is it? Arjun praying. Arjun praying to Krishna when the Brahmastra is coming at him. Then he says, "Oh, my dear Lord, you are the most powerful. You're the only one able to extinguish the fire that burns all of us in this world, because you are Apavarga." Right? You are the one who goes beyond the Pa-varga, that letter. So it's a very powerful, it's a very beautiful alphabet. And this is the story of Lord Shiva's dance and how it comes from. Jiva Goswami, however, disagrees. He says, no, Narayana Dudbhutoyam Varnakramaha. He says this order of letters comes from Lord Narayana, not from Lord Shiva. Okay, so he's a faithful Vaishnava. And so he says, originally Lord Narayana, and he has evidence for this. It's not just a sectarian thing. The Upanishads say that the sound of the Vedas, and therefore the sound of the alphabet, is the breath of the Supreme Lord, and it comes from his breathing. Okay, so let's take a look at the scientific organization of the letters of the alphabet and the difficulties that we encounter occasionally in their pronunciation. So if we can expand the left side table a little bit, please. Yeah, there we go. So these are the swaras, or the vowel sounds, and they're beautifully organized because they come in pairs, and the first 10 are especially come in pairs of long and short. Okay, a, I, u, ri, u, and then the 10th one is missing in this chart because it's theoretical only. It's l, long L. And it doesn't actually ever occur in the language. It's just a theoretical letter meant to fill out, make things balanced. That's why the book has left it out. But there's a 10th one, L with a dot, and then L with a dot and a line on top, ol. So what makes something a vowel as opposed to a consonant? Anyone know this simple difference between a consonant and a vowel? What makes something a vowel? Yeah. It's independent. It can be sounded on its own. Now here's the fun part. Panini 2,000 years ago, he wrote his grammar, and for every aspect of the language, each grammatical feature, he gave little names to that aspect of the language. So the past tense or the present tense or the future, he gave little words like lut and lung and lin. These were meaningless words, but just in words he had invented to refer to specific things in the grammar. So his sutras sound rather funny because they're combinations of these little made-up words that he uses. His grammar is super systematic. There's no reason to demean it at all. It's actually the greatest accomplishment of grammar in the history of the world. It's really, really amazing. And again, this is not just us speaking as devotees or even as Indians or whatever, but really scholars around the world recognize this as something incredible. It's as amazing as the invention of the wheel, practically speaking, at that point in history for someone to analyze grammar like this. But it is rather funny because it's got these little words which are rather meaningless little combinations. And Jiva Goswami, he says, well, why should we do all this effort to learn these sutras with all these little meaningless words? Better, I'm going to give these grammatical features the names of, give them names of Krishna, right? I'm going to name them after Krishna and give them specific names like that, right? So each aspect of the grammar, he gives a particular name of Krishna, and so all his sutras are strings of Krishna's names, essentially. So that one who memorizes, because you see, for the traditional way of learning Sanskrit is the child has to go into the forest and for 12 years has to memorize the sutras of Panini. So 12 years you're reciting something again and again, right? 12 years, if you recite Krishna's name, by the end, you learn the grammar and you become a pure devotee, right, at the same time. And Prabhupada actually says this. He says if we follow the full morning program and chant 16 good rounds, for 12 years, everything we say will be perfect, right? So this is it, right? 12 years, we can learn Sanskrit and learn the grammar. So anyway, the point being is that Jiva Goswami, he calls these 10... he calls the vowels in general, he calls them Sarveshwara. Why? Because they rule everything. They are completely independent. A vowel can be pronounced on its own. No problem. A consonant, on the other hand, needs a vowel to be pronounced. Okay? If you try to pronounce the first consonant of the Sanskrit alphabet, that's the K, right? But you need the Otherwise, if you don't say the you can't say it, right? It doesn't come out because it's a consonant, not a vowel. Therefore, the vowels are Sarveshwara, the Lord of everything, and the consonants are Vishnu Jana. That means they are devotees of Lord Vishnu, right? So they are always dependent on Lord Vishnu for their existence, just as the consonants are always dependent on the vowels for their pronunciation. So the first 10 are very nice because they go as a pair. I, U, I, U, U, Ri, Ri, U, U. And these last two, R, R, U, U, they are both vowels and consonants. So you find this R as a consonant as well. This is why sometimes in the books you find R with a dot underneath it, as in Krishna, and sometimes you find an R without a dot, like Rama. Because in the case of Rama, the sound is functioning as a consonant, R with an A after it, Rama. But in Krishna, you can actually say an R without any other consonant. Rrr, you can do it, right? Same thing with L. Ooh, you can do it. Therefore, they're counted as both vowels and as consonants at the same time. The first 10, Jiva Goswami calls Dashavatara. So they're Krishna, but his 10 main incarnations, okay? And And the short ones, a, I, u, ri, and ul, he calls, which form of Krishna was short? Vamana. And the long ones, a, I, u, ri, ul, are called Trivikrama. When the short becomes big, he's the same person, right? But the short becomes big. So in the same with these vowels, long and short, this Vamana becomes Trivikrama. Then the last four are in a different category altogether. They're what are called, they're all four are long, there's no short. A, I, O, and Ao. Okay? Knowing the difference between short and long is crucial because it, as we'll see when we go to recite verses, one of the simplest and most effective things we can do to make our pronunciation better of words and verses is to pay attention to the difference between short and long sounds. And when you get a long sound, exaggerate the difference. The long sound is supposed to be 2 times as long, 2 matras, 2 times as long as the short ones. And so many problems happen in our rhythm and in our pronunciation of verses when we ignore the difference or we reduce the distinction between short and long. So we want to exaggerate it very nicely. A, I, u, ri, like that, okay? You want to repeat after me. These are spiritual sound vibrations, and you'll get a feeling of being back in school in India, okay? Okay, let's go for it. A, I, u, ri, u, e, I, o, ao. Okay, so, that is a very sweet sound that it comes from every classroom in India. This is the thing to remember here is that this I sound, sometimes Hindi speakers will pronounce it A or A, like Chaitanya, but in Sanskrit there's no A sound. It's not Chaitanya, it's Chaitanya. It has to be an I sound. There's 2 letters, A and I. The reason it's written like that is because it's an I sound, okay? Chaitanya, not Chaitanya. And same thing with this AU. It's not Gauranga, it's Gauranga. It's O. The sound is O in Sanskrit. Hindi has its own quirks about it. Bengali has many, many quirks that go with Bengali pronunciation. We'll talk a few of those a little bit later because you'll recognize some of those quirks that we have in our own pronunciation. But for now, let's focus on the Sanskrit pronunciation in particular. Okay? So those are the vowels. They're pretty straightforward. Now if we can head to the right side table where we have the consonants, please. There we go, and just a little down. Okay, so these are the consonants, very famous, ka, kha, ga, gha, nya, nga, cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, da, tha, da, dha, na, like that. So this is where the scientific organization really becomes stunning, okay? First of all, the rows. Each row is organized based on where in the mouth the sound is pronounced. So the first one are kantyas. Those are gutturals. Kantha means neck. They're pronounced as far back as your tongue can possibly go. Ka, kha, ga, gha. Notice where your tongue is when you say ga, right? It's touching way back in your throat. Ga, okay? Ga. This is why it's the gutturals. The second one, talavyas, are the palatals, and this is right above your tongue, okay, the roof of your mouth, where you're rubbing gently. Ja, cha, ja, jha, nya, okay? The next ones are murdhanyas. Murdhanyas don't exist in English, so they're often a challenge. They are the retroflex. In English, they call them retroflex. Retro means back, and flex means to hit, okay? So that's exactly what you have to do with your tongue. You pull it back, and you hit the roof of your mouth. Da, ta, da, da, na, okay? Your tongue is pushing up to, also called cerebrals. Murdhan means head. So your tongue is pushing up to your head, okay? The next ones are also T sounds, but they're dentals. They're closer up. they're the front of the teeth, behind the teeth, just behind. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Okay? Now, the difference between these two T's is crucial for good pronunciation. In English, we have one set of T's that is somewhere between the murdhanyas and the dantyas, between the retroflex and the dentals. When we say the English t, like in teeth, t, notice where your tongue is when you say t. Right? It's a little bit back in the mouth, but not all the way back, t. Right? The Sanskrit dentals are right against the teeth, ta. And the retroflex is further back than the English T, ta. So the first row is further back than the English T, the second row is further forward than the English T, and the English T is somewhere in between. Okay? So this is why when Hindi or Indian speakers of English then speak English, they have to choose which T. If you have an Indian accent in English, you have to choose which T are you going to use, the back one or the front one. Okay? So when you're trying to say the word tooth, right? So choosing the dantyas, these ones, sounds weird. You say tooth, it doesn't work, right? So they choose the one in the back, tooth, right? My teeth, right? The reason you get my teeth is because you're going too far back for the English T. So I tell my American students in the college that one of the benefits of learning Sanskrit is you can imitate Indian accents very well. So the ta, like in the word ate, to eat, right? I ate the cake, right? So that ta is this one here. Is too far back for the English, but you got to choose if these are your only two options, right? On the converse, if you're trying to pronounce good Sanskrit, then this is going to be the litmus test. Frankly speaking, if you hear someone pronouncing Sanskrit and you're looking to see if it's authentic, this is what people listen to, is the difference between ta and ta. If you can do it, then your pronunciation is authentic. Okay? So ta and ta, that difference between ta and ta is worth practicing. If you already know how to do it, fine. But if you don't, then all you have to do is put the tongue in the right place in the mouth, and you can do it. A lot of English speakers cannot hear the difference between ta and ta because the ears are not trained to hear it. But you can do it before you can hear it. Because all you have to do is put the tongue in the middle of the mouth, turn it, and hit ta, and you can get the sound, even if you can't hear the difference. Okay, this is a very crucial point, that in language, the actual recognition of it comes after you can actually mechanically learn how to do it before you actually hear the difference. This is true of the practice of bhakti as well, right? We can learn how to do the path of bhakti even before we feel it on the inside. We can do the puja, we can do the japa and so on. And gradually as we start doing it mechanically, we actually start to feel it on the inside too. As you mechanically pronounce it well, you will start to hear the difference between those sounds, and your ears will become sharper. Okay? But the mechanical comes first, then the feeling comes a little bit later in the pronunciation. This is true of many languages. In Croatian, for example, they have two different kinds of ch. And I had a Croatian friend in college, and a roommate. He was a devotee, and I said, tell me the two types of cha. And he said, okay, listen carefully. Cha and cha. And I said, this is exactly the same thing. He said, you say it. Cha and cha. He said, no, you got to do cha and cha. Cha and cha. You got it. What did I do? I don't know. But cha, I couldn't hear the difference at all, right? But when he taught me where to put the tongue, I could do it, even though I couldn't hear it. Okay? So that's the key thing. If you can't hear it, it's okay. Then the last one is pa, is the oshtya. These are with the lips. They're pretty easy. Pa, pa, ba, bha, and ma. The pa varga that we've already talked about. Okay, so these are the rows. Okay? But that's not the end of it. The columns are also very scientifically organized. The rows are according to the place in the mouth. The columns are according to the quality of the sound. See those little V's and A's at the top? So there's two things that the alphabet does different permutations or combinations of. Voice and aspiration. The A, or aspiration, is a little easier to explain. That's a H sound that you can add to a letter. So the difference between G and K, or between G and G, one has air, the other has less. Okay, G, K, you can feel it. You can feel the air come out. Okay, but that's only one thing. The other thing is the voice. And the voice is the difference between G and G. It's an extra vibration of the vocal cords. Say the sound K. K. Hold your throat. K. K. Now say G. G. Exactly the same place, but can you feel the extra vibration when you say G? Your vocal cords have more vibration then, okay? That difference in quality is called voice. And so the first column has no voice and no aspiration, minus V, minus A, G. The second one has no voice, but it does have aspiration, plus A, K. The third one, voice and aspiration, G. The fourth one, the third one is voice, no aspiration, G. And the fourth one has voice and aspiration, G. Okay? That fourth column does not exist in English. We don't have voiced plus aspirated sounds at all. And so those tend to be the greatest challenge. G, J, D, B, right? It's multiple sounds put together from an English perspective, and so you have to all say it at once, okay? Like that. Another thing is this first column, ka, cha, ta, ta, pa, does not exist in English at the beginning of words. So it's also a little bit of a challenge. Just like if you say the word pot, pot, with an American accent, pot, can you hear the h? Pot, pot, right? Pot. You feel it? Even though it's spelled P-O-T, what we're actually saying is P-H-O-T. Pot. But the T has no H. Pot. No H, right? Now flip it. Say top. All of a sudden the H is with T, and now the P is without an H. Top. Right? We don't have the unaspirated sounds at the beginning of words in English. So this first column and this fourth column tend to be the most difficult in terms of sounds. This means that every sound is organized according to its place in the mouth, voice, and aspiration on this grid. It's the most scientific form of organizing sounds that the world has ever known. It's really, really impressive. And linguists today use this organizational system to classify the sounds of other languages, despite the fact that the alphabets are in multiple different directions. So compare this with what we have in the English alphabet, right? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no rhyme or reason to the order of those sounds, and therefore we have to sing a song to help our kids memorize it. But here there's no song involved because every sound progresses very logically to the next. G, K, G, G, Ng. That last column are the nasals, okay? And Parinini has, I think, his best sutra. My favorite sutra is his list of the nasals. He says the nasals are nyamangananam. Right? Can you say that? Nyamangananam. It's all the nasal sounds, and each one is pronounced in a different place in the mouth. Nga, nya, na, na, ma. From the back, forward. Notice also that this is moving systematically from the back of the throat, further forward, further forward, further forward, all the way to the outside with the lips, okay? Like this. Okay, so any questions about the organization of the alphabet? Just not general questions, just specifically about this. Is it fairly clear? Within the what? First? Oh, okay. So the question is the nasals. The difference between this one and this one, right? So this one in BBT books is written with a dot under. Actually, I should have mentioned that earlier. Just so you know, the dot on top. It's done, instead of a line on top, this is the dot on top in BBT books, which is an acceptable alternative. So this one is in the back of the throat, nga, nga, in the back, nga, and the next one is on the palate, nya. Now, here's why you don't actually have to worry about the difference between that, is because these sounds will only show up with a letter of its own kind, in its own row, so you will be forced to pronounce it correctly. Here's an example. Song. The English word song. Song. When you say that N, where is your tongue? It's in the back of your throat, preparing for the G sound, right? That's where this sound is pronounced. This is that na, song. So when you read it in Sanskrit, like the word anga, right? Anga, it's going to be this N. But you don't have to learn how to pronounce it because you will always pronounce it correctly. Sanskrit will only put sounds that go together. It won't put this sound, sonaga, sonaga. It won't do that, right? Only this one, songa. Okay? Okay, so just to make things complete, let's do the alphabet once together, and then we can move on to some newer stuff. Okay? So please repeat after me. Ka, ka, ga, ga, nga. Nga. Okay. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya, ta, ta, da, dha, na, ta, tha, da, dha, na, pa, pa, ba, bha, ma. Okay. This is not the complete alphabet. There's still some letters missing. Ya, ra, la, va, sha, sha, sa, ha. But this is the grid. That's the most impressive part of that alphabet. Okay, so that's the alphabet. Now, the practice of these letters is very helpful, and I'm not going to go around and practice this more because I think most people in this audience know how to pronounce these specific sounds. But if you don't know, then I encourage you to practice these sounds first. And if you go online, then you can find recordings of the Sanskrit alphabet with clear sound and just practice the pronunciation of those specific sounds, because they are, of course, the building blocks to everything we do with the verses. Okay, but at this point, I want to move on to the verses themselves, because that's going to be the crux of what we do today in this seminar. Basically, how do you define a verse? Okay, what is a verse? What is anything in verse? Well, verses, not always, but typically they have a meter to them, a metrical pattern. This is a word we saw earlier this morning. Oops, my pen died. Meter refers to a pattern of long and short syllables that create a certain rhythm. So I gave you the example of Hamlet earlier, and a very popular meter from that time was iambic pentameter. And that's to be or not to be, that is the question. Okay? That last word, question, actually doesn't quite work. You have one syllable left, and question has two. So it's kind of stuck there. So it's a little short. But otherwise, it's to be or not to be, that is the question. Okay? And it creates a certain rhythm. We as human beings are hardwired to feel rhythm. We can feel it. Even if you think you don't have any sense of rhythm, it just means you're not able to express that rhythm yourself, but you can still feel it. This is why pretty much any human being will start tapping to a good beat, right? It's just a very natural thing because we're hardwired to feel rhythm. And that is why even when you don't know how to recite a verse, its rhythm, you will still feel it in you. Because on the inside, your body, your mind can pick it up, that rhythm. Now, Sanskrit has a whole collection of different meters and different verses that create very beautiful rhythms. And the Sanskrit poets have given each one of these metrical patterns a certain name based on their based on the mood that they create, based on the mood. So, for example, one metrical pattern that we find quite a bit and use is called Shardula Vikriditam, okay? And this means the play of a tiger. Shardula Vikriditam, the play of a tiger. And this is the rhythm, this is the meter rather, that is used in such songs as Shad Goswami Ashtika, okay? Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritambho Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito. It's a very rhythmic metrical pattern. It's got a steady beat. You can dance to it. Dun, 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 dun. Right? It's got a very steady beat to it. And it sounds very playful. Very playful. But someone with a very heavy step is playing like a tiger. Boom, 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 boom. It's not a very airy meter. It's a very solid one. The way that you would imagine a tiger would play. Okay? So this is Shardula Vikriditam, and many verses are written. The first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam is in this meter. Janmadhyasya yaton vayaditaratas chartheshvabhignya swara. Right? Like that. And many others. Another very popular one is called Vasanta Tilaka, and that's it means the ornament. Tilaka means ornament or decoration, ornament of spring, Vasanta. So the ornament of spring, and this is a much lighter, more airy meter. It's very subtle in its quality. And the most famous verses are the Brahma Samhita verses. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhira bhipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So notice, it's not got the thump, thump, thump of the previous one, right? It's much more spring-like. It's like something fresh is blossoming and changing and new life is coming. So it's a very beautiful verse for that sort of purpose. And Bhagavatam uses this meter occasionally, actually quite a bit, at different times for different purposes. One of my favorite meters is called Manda Kranta. And Manda Kranta, Manda means slow, and Kranta means moving. It's slow moving. Like a river that kind of lazily wanders and moves around, and then occasionally goes down some rapids, a little bit fast, and then ambles down again, Manda Kranta. And here's an example of a verse that you may know in this meter. Naham vipro nacha narapati napi vaishyo na shudro Naham vipro nacha narapati napi vaishyo na shudro Naham varni nacha grihapatir na vanastho yatirva Kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdhe Kintu prodyan nikhila paramananda purnamritabdhe Gopi bhartu padakamalayur dasa dasanudasa. So you hear the river, you see the river, it ambles along slowly, slowly, and then every occasionally It goes fast over a set of rapids and then ambles along again, right? Very beautiful. And what gives us its beauty is that the first 4 syllables are very long. Naham vipro gopi bhartu kintu prodyan, right? Those 4 syllables, nice long. And then it's followed by several short ones. Kintu prodyan nikhila parama, right? Fast, 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 fast. Slow again. Parama nanda purnamritabdhe. So it has its own kind of flow to it that gives it its own flavor. You will find throughout the scriptures that the meter changes when the mood changes. If you think of Bhagavad Gita, most of those verses are the standard short verses. They're called Anushtub or Shloka. Those standard short verses like Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Short, 4 quarters, 2 lines, 32 syllables. We'll get into the details in a second. But it's a short that we are all familiar with. But occasionally, the Gita breaks into a longer meter. When does it do that? Anyone remember? Yes. So when... Okay.
In the 11th chapter, right after Krishna shows his form, Arjuna breaks into verse to describe his prayers.
Exactly. Both Sanjay and Arjun break into the longer meters, Deva, Deva, Jagatpate, to express a sense of amazement and power that comes from that vision of Krishna's universal form. There's another place that he breaks into, the Gita breaks into longer verses. Before this, before the 11th chapter. Go ahead again.
In the 2nd chapter?
Yes, when what happens?
Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhavaha, and then there's 3 verses after that that are long.
So what's happening at that point?
I think...
What's Karpanya dosho pahata, that verse?
So he's describing how he's feeling
about
fighting this war. And so I think when he's expressing that feeling, he's using these, words to describe that.
Yes, he's expressing his feelings, but he's expressing his feelings even before that verse. What changes in 2:7 is that he finally decides to surrender to Krishna, right? He finds a solution to it. And so in that mode of surrender, he uses a longer meter. Karpanya dosho pahatasvabhava prichhami tvam dharma samudha cheta yachreyasya nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyaste hamshadimam tvam praparnam. In essence, when one cannot contain oneself and has to, you find a verse that fits the mood and you break into that, right? And so Bhagavatam, especially 10th canto, does this all the time. It'll be going on story, plot, and then all of a sudden something important will happen, or some devotee will express some heartfelt prayers to the Lord, and they'll break into a longer meter. In 10th canto, it becomes exceptional because the meters they break into are not just... Gita has 2 basic meters, the long one and the short one. It's called Anushtub and Trishtub, short and long, okay? And again, I'll show you a sheet with these names in just a minute so you can copy them down. But the short, long, 2 meters. But Bhagavatam has a much larger repertoire of different verse metrical patterns that can be used. And so when something as powerful and as beautiful and as intimate and moving as the gopis' prayers of separation to Krishna take place, you can't just use the little one or the long one. You have to use something extraordinarily beautiful, right? So those verses, Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam kavibhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadattatam Bhuvi Grinanti Te Bhurida Jana So nice, huh? So beautiful. This meter is called Raja Hamsi, which means the king of swans. Raja Hamsi, the king of swans. And it's the movement of a swan. Have you seen a swan swim? Right? The swan goes like this. Left and then right. And this is the mood of the meter. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam. Right? So you can hear it, right? You can hear the movement of the swan going left and right in little short bursts like that. Very, very like a swan. It's a very aristocratic meter. It's a very beautiful one and a very dignified meter as well, as you would expect from a swan. So Bhagavatam uses many such meters. Shikshashtaka, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's 8 verses, Mahaprabhu uses several different meters to express different feelings and different moods present within those verses. And we'll look at some of those in a moment. Okay? So metrical verses, meters are a powerful tool to help express the poet's feeling and the emotions that are behind them. And the question really is how to recognize what meter we are looking at. How are meters made and how do we recognize them? Essentially, there are about 10 or so commonly used meters in Sanskrit. Okay? There are literally hundreds of metrical patterns, but 10 that are used commonly and regularly. And of those, 5 that are very common. So at the minimum, if we learn how to recognize those 5 meters, and we learn one melody to use for each one of those, we're set. Right? You can recite pretty much any of the verses in Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. It's not going to be a problem. Most of us already know the meters, the melodies to go with many of these meters. So like Vasanta Tilaka, you can just use Brahma Samhita meter. Any Vasanta Tilaka verse you find in Bhagavatam, you just sing it like Brahma Samhita, Chinta Mani Prakarasat, like that. Any Shardula Vikridatam you find, sing it like Shad Goswami Ashtaka, Krishnod Kirtanagan. Any Mandakranta you find, sing it like Naham Vipro Nachanarapati Napi. Any Trishtub you find, sing it like Karpanya Dosho Pata Swabhava, right? So if you've got one melody per metrical type, basically you're covered. Then if you want to learn additional melodies and other stylish ways of doing it, you're welcome to. But you've got the basic minimum covered and you know how to recite these verses. Okay? The challenge is how to recognize which meter you're looking at. Okay? The short ones are pretty straightforward, but the longer ones can be difficult to recognize. And so here's how we can do that. So meter in Sanskrit is defined as a series of long and short syllables. Long syllables are called guru, and short syllables are called laghu. Okay? Guru means long or heavy. It's actually the words literally translate to heavy and light. Laghu means light. So long and short or heavy and light. Guru, laghu. And every verse is a fixed number of syllables in a fixed pattern of long and short. First of all, what is a syllable? A syllable is basically made by a vowel. It's a vowel with some consonants. You have exactly the number of syllables as you have a number of vowels. So the word Krishna has how many vowels? 2. Ri, kr, and a. Krishna, 2 syllables. Rama, 2 vowels. A and a. Ra-ma, 2 syllables. Govinda, 3. Go-vin-da. Okay? O, E, A are the 3 vowels. Chaitanya, and so on. Okay? So, how do you know whether a syllable is guru or laghu? Because each verse, remember, is a pattern of guru and laghu syllables. So how do you know whether it's guru or laghu? Here is the criteria. A syllable is guru only if it has a long vowel. Okay, if it's a long vowel, what are the long vowels? A, I, U, R, E, I, O, Au. All are long. There's actually fewer short ones. The short ones are just A, I, U, Ri, and Ul. Okay, those 5. But the rest are long. So if any syllable has a long vowel, it's automatically guru. Or if its vowel is followed by a double consonant. So even though the vowel may be short, if it's followed by a double consonant, it becomes guru. Essentially, something is long, or guru, it's heavy, if you need twice as much time to say it. If it's a long vowel, you need twice as much time to say ah, then you do okay? If it's a double consonant, you're going to need twice as much time to say it. Okay. If any of these two, either one of these two applies, it's a guru. Otherwise, it's a laghu. If these two don't apply, it's a short vowel. Okay, now let's try this. Okay, so I'm going to try this with the first line of Brahma Samhita Chintamani verse, okay? And we're going to scan that verse. Scanning means we're going to identify whether it's guru or laghu, okay? Okay, so, okay, here we go. The first syllable is chint or chi, right? It's the vowel that counts. So chi, that syllable, is it guru or laghu? So the vowel, is it short or long? Short, I, right? So one would think it's laghu, but what was the second criteria? If the vowel is followed by a double consonant, 2 consonants, it makes it guru. Are there 2 consonants afterwards? Yes. Na and ta. N and T. You see? So therefore, this is guru. And for guru, I'm going to make a long line like that to signify that that syllable is guru. Okay? Chint. Because even though the vowel is short, it's followed by a double consonant, N and T. Na and ta, therefore it's guru. Next one is ta. Next vowel, chin, ta. That's guru or laghu? Guru, because the vowel is long. Ma is the next syllable, guru or laghu? Laghu, because the a is short, and do you have a double consonant? No. So chin, ta, ma. Ni, guru or laghu? Guru. Okay. Let's have a war. Guru, laghu, guru. Ni is the vowel short? Yes. Okay, so that doesn't satisfy that criteria. But is it followed by a double consonant? Yes. Pa and ra. Right? 2 consonants. Pra. So this is guru. Okay? Chintamanip. This is Chintamanip. So this is guru. Then pra is laghu or guru? Laghu, because it's a is a short vowel. Is it followed by a double consonant? No. Laghu. Ka is laghu or guru? Laghu. It's a short vowel, but it's followed only by a single consonant, R. Ra is guru or laghu? Laghu, because it's short, followed by only a single consonant, S. Sad is guru or laghu? Guru, because it's a short vowel, but double consonants, D and M. Next one, Ma, laghu. Short A, single vowel, single consonant. Su, check here also. Laghu, short vowel. U is a short vowel, followed a single consonant. This one, ka, guru. Short vowel, but it's followed by double consonant, L and P. Pa is, okay, this is the real test of your Sanskrit knowledge. Okay, how many people think it's guru? How many people think it's laghu? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the laghus win, okay? Here's why. This is a short vowel. Is there a double consonant? No. R can be both a vowel and a consonant. R with a dot underneath it is a vowel. So this is only one consonant, a V. Okay? Now this is all going to be important. You'll see. It looks like it's all tedious work, but it's important. Okay, this one, vr. Vr is a guru or laghu? Guru. Short ri, but it's followed by double consonant, K and sha. Vriksha. So this is guru, and then the last one doesn't really matter because it's the last one, okay? So seriously, that's how they mark the last one, is they do doubles. Oh, perfect, thank you. Okay, yes, go ahead.
So if the word chintamani were to be analyzed separately, wouldn't it be would it be a laghu instead of a guru, correct?
At the end?
Yeah, at the end.
Yes.
So when we analyze conjunctively. We don't analyze separately.
Yes.
Okay. So
you always have to see the next word so long as you're not crossing to the next line.
Okay. But
you don't cross to the next line.
So is chintamani prakara one word, or is it a sentence, or?
Actually, Chintamani prakara sadmasu. That whole thing is one word. Yeah. Chintamani prakara.
You break it for sake of pronunciation?
Yes. Okay. Yes, exactly. So the whole thing is one word, but you just keep going. And if it's the last syllable, even in Chintamani, it doesn't matter. Long or short, no one really cares because it's the final one. In fact, by default, it's kind of long because you have plenty of time to pause. Guru and laghu are basically indications of how much time you need to say that syllable. So that's what creates the rhythm. Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpa vriksha. So notice with the rhythm, that's what's giving the rhythm, right? Each longer one, chintamani. And with ni, I stopped because to say the PR, you need more time on the ni. So in that way, it creates a particular pattern. Now this pattern that you see, long, long, short, 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 long, short. This pattern all the way to the end is the pattern that creates Vasanta Tilaka. Okay? So now if we move to the handout that shows all the metrical patterns. Let's see, next. Yes, this one here. And yeah, keep going down. That's good. So this is a list of the major meters in the Sanskrit language. Can we go up just a little bit, please? Yeah, so we get the page. Okay, so here you have the key metrical patterns. I know it's a little bit small. We'll expand it in just a second, but just to give you an overview, there's about 10 or so on this list of the main metrical patterns, and you can see each one has a meter that's defined by a series of long, short syllables like that. Now, if we can please expand the Vasanta Tilaka one, I'll show you which one it is. Whoops. This one here, if you can make that bigger. Yeah, this even a little bigger. Okay, so Vasanta Tilaka right here, okay? Now, see this pattern of guru, laghu? Does it match what we have on the board? Did we do a good job? Yeah. You see? Guru, guru, laghu, guru, laghu, 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 guru, laghu, laghu, guru, laghu, guru, and then anything. Guru. Yeah? Matches exactly. If we did this with the next 3 lines of that verse, Chintamani prakarasadmasukalpa vriksha laksha vriteshu surabhir abhipalayantam, it would be exactly the same pattern. I won't do it for the sake of time, but if you were to do Lakshmi Sahasrashata Sambhrama Sevyamanam, it becomes exactly the same pattern. Each line, Govindama Dipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Okay? Every line exactly the same, gives it a consistent rhythm, which makes it really easy to sing and to recite. Now think about this. Each one of these has a different pattern to it. If you go, let's see, where did it go? Can we go further down, please? Oh, first thing, Vasanta Tilaka, how many syllables do we have total? Because that matters as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 syllables makes Vasanta Tilaka. Go down further, please, on the sheet. Further down. Okay, so here's my Manda Kranta, my favorite meter. Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati. So that down the rapids, that's what creates it. See the first 4 long syllables and then the many short ones. Naham Vipro Nacha Narapatir Na Pivaishyo Nashudro. Right? And it creates that rhythm. And it's 17 syllables. So it's much longer, 3 syllables longer than the previous one. And then Shad Goswami Ashtaka, Shardula Vikriditam, Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro. Premamritam Bho Nidhi. Okay? And that one is 19 syllables. So it's even longer. Okay? So what is this line is the question. This slash here is a place of pause. It's a natural place of pause in the meter. And you see this when we sing it. Krishnot Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro. Pause, right? Premamritam Bho Nidhi. So the poets noticed where the pauses typically happen. So this is called a caesura, a place where you cease for some time, you pause for some time.
But it doesn't pause in the Mandakranta.
Yes, so Mandakranta has 2 pauses. Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati. So pause 1. Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati. Pause 2. Napi Vaishyo Nashudro. So it has 2 caesuras, 2 pause spots. Good eye. Very good. Okay? Yeah.
So Prabhu, when you're identifying the syllables, so is that just the Sanskrit letter and the, like for example, Vriksha, you said Vri and Ksha?
Yes.
So it's just based on the Sanskrit letters, right? Not
what?
Like not because it's written in English, right? So when you identify a syllable, what's the rule?
No, it's the sound. Is the sound. Vriksha. Whether you write it in English letters or Sanskrit letters doesn't make a difference. Ri is a short vowel. Ksha is a double consonant. So vriksha. Guru, laghu. Okay? So you can write it in English letters or you can write it in Devanagari and do the same things. It'll make no difference. It'll be exactly the same. Because the English letters is exactly a perfect one-to-one replica of the Devanagari letters. As we were saying in the morning part of the seminar, there's no difference based on script. You can use any script you like. Devanagari is a very recent script, but it's being used, so it's good. But English script is also fine. It's in the sound vibration. It's the vriksha that you get the long and the short. Okay.
So, like vri, ik, ksha. So, I mean, how do you identify it's two syllables and not?
Because two vowels, ri and a, is two syllables. Vr is ri or r is the first vowel, and a is the second one. Vriksha. This is also why when as often Hindi speakers and even non-Hindi speakers eat the final a in words like Ram, it causes huge problems in reciting verses. Half the reason why we mess up in our recitation of verses as Indian language speakers is because we eat up that final a. And it causes a lot. We say Govind instead of Govinda. And in Sanskrit, that final a is not optional. It has to be pronounced.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, so when the acharyas write something, do they keep the meta in mind, or is the meta later given to whatever they write?
Okay. So this is the big question. Thank you for that question, because it leads me exactly to what I wanted to say next, which is this. You see, imagine, now have a look at this and imagine how difficult it is to write something in Sanskrit poetry. Every syllable is fixed. You can't squeeze an extra syllable into somewhere in the middle just because it doesn't fit. If your long and short patterns don't make it, you're stuck, okay? You're stuck. Suppose you were working on this, you wanted to write a verse in Vasanta Tilaka on our deities in Boise, Banke Bihari, okay? So you wanted to say something about Banke Bihari. Where would you put the word, the name of the Lord Banke Bihari, in the verse? Look at this. Banke Bihari. Banke Bihari. Okay? The first syllable, ba, is guru. Ke is guru. Still guru. A is always long. Always long. Okay? No short. There's no e. It's always a. Guru. B is what? Laghu. Ha is guru. Ri is laghu. Okay? So, Banke Bihari. You need guru, guru, laghu. Where can you put it in this meter? If you wanted to write something in Brahma Samhita. Right here, okay? Banke Bihari. You can actually begin the verse with it. You cannot put it anywhere else in the verse. Now suppose I wanted to do Radha Banke Bihari. Okay? So for Radha, I add two more guru. Ra, dha. Okay? Ra, dha. Two long words. Radha Banke Bihari. Where do I put it in the verse? We need four gurus. Radha, Banke, and then laghu, guru, laghu. Where can I put it? Nowhere. In Vasanta Tilaka, if I started off wanting to say something about Radha Banke Bihari, I cannot. I have to put Banke Bihari somewhere else and Radha somewhere else in the meter. Even if I just wanted to say something about Banke Bihari, and we had Banke Bihari, and then Banke Bihari, and then Banke Bihari ne, to Radha Banke Bihari. Where would I put this? You can't, right? You can't. There's no good place to put it. My point being that it's very difficult to say what you want to say in the meter that you want to put it in. If you looked for Radha Banke Bihari somewhere else, you may not be able to find any meter where you can say Radha Banke Bihari. Nowhere. You will always have to split up Banke Bihari and Radha into separate words and put them in different places. Every little change to every word makes a difference in where you can stick it in the metrical pattern. And so composing a verse in Sanskrit is a huge feat of poetry, because you may start off thinking, oh, I want to describe Krishna's beauty. and you get halfway through the verse and you realize that there's no place to put the word beauty. I have to back up and find another word, find another verse. Or you may start off thinking, I want to say something in Mandakranta. And then you realize that what you wanted to say doesn't fit into Mandakranta, right? So the ability to match the meter to the message is the skill of the poet. And it is very, very difficult. It's a big challenge to do. So when I was studying in Oxford, in England, we had a professor. He was visiting from University of Madras, Chennai. I think I've mentioned him before in a previous seminar here. His name was Professor Mudumbai Narasimhachari from University of Madras. He was head of the Department of Vaishnavism in Madras, now passed away. And he came several times when I was a student there. And he was a great Sanskrit scholar and a very wonderful devotee, a Sri Vaishnava, very dedicated to Ramanujacharya and that path of devotional service. And as part of his learning, he had received the title of Ashu Kavishekara. That is, one who could compose Sanskrit verses extempore, on the spot. So we would give him a theme, and we would give him a verse, a meter, and he would just come up with a beautiful verse on that theme, just like that, with no need to actually stop and compose and think and adjust and readjust. He was so good at this. I remember one time at the Oxford Center for Hindu Studies where he was teaching, we had, it was Prabhupada's disappearance day, and so we were doing an observance in the main library area, and kind of in a very nice scholarly type of way to appreciate Prabhupada, and a few people had gathered, and some professors or students were there, so we thought we should do this in a good way, and just at the last minute, I got an idea and I went to him and I said, will you please compose some verses on Srila Prabhupada for the occasion? And he said, okay, give me 5 minutes, I'll be right there. And within 5 minutes, he composed 3 beautiful verses on Srila Prabhupada, praising his wonderful glories and qualities, which he then recited to the audience. And everyone could appreciate, this is real accomplishment. One time, I made photocopies for him for his class, and brought the photocopies to him. And to thank me, he composed a beautiful verse thanking me for the photocopies on the Xerox machine. And so I asked him once. I said the specific question. I said, "What comes first to you? Do you decide on a meter and then find the words to fit in?" Or do you decide the words you want to say and then find a meter that fits the words? And he said, no, Ravi, it's not like that. He said, when you think of what you want to say, it comes to you in a metrical pattern already. It comes pre-formed. It's like, So before this point, I used to wonder. I had this little bit of skepticism in the back of my head going, is it really possible that Krishna and Arjuna could have a regular conversation in such beautiful verses? I mean, it's not, people don't speak Shakespeare when they're talking. And you have to sit and you have to write those nice soliloquies by Hamlet and all of that. It takes time. Is it really possible? And it's only after I met him I realized, wow, it's totally possible, right? Someone can do this. And I asked him once, I said, well, where did you get this ability to do it? Actually, I have to tell you about his ability. He was, besides the title Ashu Kavishekara, another title he received was Ashtavadhani, which means he who can do 8 things at once. Now, this is not running 8 chess games at once, okay? It's not like that. This is how it works, the test of Ashtavadhani for Sanskrit scholars. He was sitting in the middle of a room with 8 people around him and in a circle, and the first person would ask him a question. He would say, please give me a verse describing Lord Ramachandra. Compose a verse describing Lord Ram, but tell me that verse 1 syllable at a time. And what the tester would do is when he gave him the first syllable, he would try to guess what the second syllable was going to be and forbid that syllable, preclude it. So it's a verse on Lord Ram, right? So the first syllable, Ra. Now what's the next one going to be? Ma. So he says, Ma nishiddha. Ma is forbidden. So whatever verse you created in your mind for the full line, because you have to put the verse together line by line, not word by word, is now out the window. So you got to recover, and recover not just that word, but the whole line, because obviously everything's going to be affected if you change that word, right? So that you recreate the sentence, Raja, Raja. Okay, whew, recovered. Next word is going to be Raja Rama, right? So Ra Nishiddha. And again, and again, and again, till you get to the end of the line. Okay. After that, he says, stop, okay, that's enough. Next person. Next person says, I want you to tell me the story of Nala and Damayanti from the Akasha Purana. So Nala and Damayanti is a famous story from Mahabharata. He said, I want you to read that story from the Akasha Purana. Now, the Akasha Purana means the Purana in the sky. It doesn't actually exist. His point is that you tell me the story in Sanskrit verses, and it should sound like you're reading from a book. It should be so smooth. So he goes, Asi Draja Nalo Nama Veerasena Suto Bali. There was once a king named Nala, and he was very strong and very powerful. And he tells him a couple verses, 3 verses, and the man says, okay, that's enough. Okay, number 2. Number 3, the next person says, I want you to tell me a beautiful, tell me a verse about the beauty of the ocean in Chennai in the autumn season. Give me one line. He does, in this meter, he does that. 4th person talks local politics in Sanskrit with him, about this or that, this or that. 6th person, again, and like this. The 8th person is sitting behind him throwing flowers at his neck. And he has to keep counting the number of flowers that has hit his neck as he's doing all of this other stuff. Once he gets back to number 1, the first person again, the first person doesn't give him any clue as to what the first line was, what the meter was, what letters he had forbidden, none of that. He says, just give me the second line. 3rd person picks up the conversation about politics exactly where he left off. You have to remember where you were in each verse as you go around. This lasts 3 or 4 hours, and if you can do it successfully without making a mistake, and you've got the accurate count of the flowers, you get the title of Ashtavadhani. And Professor Narasimhachai did this when he was 17 years old. Right? So, now, I told him, I said, wow, this is amazing, right? This is great. And he said, no. This is nothing. If you wanted to see real Sanskrit learning, you should have met my guru, right? He said, he was amazing. He said, I would go to study some Sanskrit work with him, like Ramanujacharya's Vedartha Sangraha, okay? Very technical work. And I would go to him and say, he would say, what do you want to study today? And I say, well, Vedartha Sangraha. He says, do you have a copy of the book? And he says, yes. And so I give him the copy of the book. And then he makes some small talk with me. So how's your mother doing? How's your father? And as he's doing that, he's flipping through the pages of the book. And once he's finished flipping, he closes the book, hands it back to the student, Narasimhachari, and says, okay, let's start. From what page you want to begin? And he recites that from memory. The verse, teaches from memory while the student is following along in the book. He hasn't memorized it at that point. He had it memorized before, but that was just to refresh his memory as he's going through it. He said, my guru had practically an entire library of Sanskrit books memorized, and all he needed was just a few minutes to flip through and refresh his memory. That was it. So when we hear of such things like Shruti Dhara, right, people who could hear and remember, or the idea that Suta Goswami was sitting during Shukadev Goswami's recitation and then turned around years later and recited the whole thing to Shonaka Rishi. How is that possible? Well, this is how it's possible, right? Even as recently as 50 years ago, there were people able to do this. Now it's dying. Very few people have that ability of memory and power to do that. But they were doing it even at this time. I asked Narasimhachari once, I said, where did you get this ability to compose verses extempore? And he said, actually, this is the mercy of Lord Hayagriva. Hayagriva is the incarnation of the Lord with the head of a horse, and he comes specifically to give Vedic knowledge. He's the source of all knowledge. And he said that one day, this is how it happened. He said, one day I was going to visit a temple in my local town. I forget which temple it was. And he said, I was going to visit, and every day I'd go for darshan, and there was this one gentleman alone standing at the doorway of the temple, reciting these beautiful verses to the Lord inside, Lord Vishnu. Beautiful verses. And the next day I'd go, and he was reciting a whole different set of verses. And the third day, another different set of verses. And eventually I figured out that these were all his verses. And I went to him, I stopped him, and I said, you're composing new verses every day for several hours? And the devotee said, well, of course. I mean, would you offer the same flowers to the Lord today as you did yesterday? How can I offer the same humble offerings of verses to Krishna today which I offered yesterday, if they're my own creation? And Narasimhachari said, I decided that I wanted to be like this. And so I went to him and I begged him, please take me as your student, as your disciple. And as you know, like many of these stories, they say, no, go away. And he went again and again and again. And finally he said, okay, come with me. He sat him down and he said, look, I received this knowledge because I received a mantra to Ugra Hayagriva. Hayagriva in his angry form, like Ugra Nrsimha. He said, but that mantra is too dangerous. He said, that form, like Ugra Nrsimha, so difficult to worship, right? He said, I practically lost everything. Lost my home and my possessions and my family. I have nothing now except this endless store of knowledge. He said, you're a grihastha. You're a grihastha, you're a family man, I don't want to put you through this, so I'll give you a mantra to Lakshmi Hayagriva. And like Lakshmi Nrsimha, he's much kinder and gentler. And so he taught him this mantra, and he said after that point, it's just that knowledge started to flow. And therefore every series of verses he would write, he would always give one invocation verse in obeisance to Lord Hayagriva before he wrote any other verses. That was his rule as a way of doing his sadhana, his obeisance to Lord Hayagriva. So in this way, my wonderment with him just grew and grew and grew, and it was amazing. And he gave this series of seminars at Oxford. And I think I mentioned this last time, but he gave this series of seminars at Oxford and decided to give one on the Bhagavatam, on the 10th canto in particular. And one of these days, after I think the first or the second lecture series he gave, he pulled me aside and he said, Ravi, I have to tell you something. He said, I'm not being proud. I'm not being arrogant when I say that I have studied all of Vedic literature. Right? It's just a fact. He said, I have not found a work that is more beautiful than this Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, he said, I don't know why it took me so long to read Bhagavatam. He said, but finally I'm reading it here because I'm in the company of all of you Vaishnavas, and this is the most amazing thing I've ever read. And this is, again, coming from a person who's read everything there is to read in Sanskrit, right? So this, number one, this Bhagavatam is something extraordinary. It's something special. It really is a thing of unending beauty, right? It's directly Krishna's form. It's Krishna himself. And so just like Krishna's form has no limit to its beauty, So Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is unlimitedly beautiful. And this is why it's called Srimad Bhagavatam, right? It's the beautiful. And that's not just a title we give, it's in the book. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite, right? It's the beautiful Bhagavata. Because it's really Krishna's form. And what could be more beautiful than Krishna's form itself? But the story doesn't end here. After a while, I didn't know this, but without my a couple of times, I had taken a professor to some temples. We went to Bhaktivedanta Manor in England and in London, and then we went to Coventry Temple, and we went to Birmingham, to a few different temples around the country, and they're close by. And he was deeply affected by what he saw there. And he kept saying that what Srila Prabhupada has done is so amazing, because he said he has brought about a revolution in the hearts of the youth, both Indian and Western. And he said the biggest challenge for my sampradaya, he said, we're losing our young people, we're losing our youth to this great tradition and Vaishnava culture. And he couldn't believe that it wasn't just Indians, it was everyone taking up this process. And so without telling me, he found Prabhupada's biography, the 7-volume version in Lilamrita, in our OCHS, Oxford Center's library. And he was reading it during the course of the semester, finished all 7 volumes, and then came to me one day and said, I'm completely moved by his story, by what he did, his sacrifice, his wisdom, his Shakti, his power to change so many people's hearts. He said, I'll promise you that before I leave Oxford, I am going to compose 100 verses in praise of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada Shatakam. So every day, not every day, once a week, I would go and ask him. I would say, so how are the verses coming along? And he would say, well, I haven't started working on them yet, but they'll come. They'll come. I'd go again the next week and ask him the same question. In the back of my mind, I started worrying that, maybe this is one of those Indian things where, karenge, ha, ha, ha. And it never actually happens. So I thought maybe, and so I was pushing, but I didn't want to push too hard. He was my teacher. He kept telling me, look, don't worry. Finally, one week he said, look, don't worry. I promised you I will do it, okay? I promise. So then after that, I stopped asking. About a week before he was due to leave, he came one morning to the office, really excited, inspired. And he said, come to my office. He said, last night I got an inspiration and I wrote 60 verses of the 100 I completed. And probably tomorrow and day after I'll complete the other 40, right? Within the space of 3 or 4 days, he wrote all 100 verses. And every one of them is beautiful. It's stunning in its quality. And they're not just generic verses, oh, he was a Vaishnava, he was great. It's specifically to Prabhupada's character, who he was, what his accomplishments were, the fact that he made temples, the fact that he translated these books of Srimad Bhagavatam, and so on and so forth. And at that point, again, I realized, it is said Vedanta Deshika, he was one of the great acharyas, Vaishnava acharyas of South India. He wrote a book called Paduka Sahasri, 1,000 verses in praise of Lord Vishnu's chappals, his sandals. Right? 1,000 verses just describing the sandals of the Lord. And they're really about his sandals. He talks about them as 2 boats in the ocean of this material world. And if you can just climb into the chappals, then you'll be completely safe. And very beautiful. It is said that he wrote all 1,000 verses in the space of one night because he got so inspired. Again, it was just a story for me. But then when I saw him do it with 100 verses, I thought, well, totally possible, right? 500, 600, 700 years ago. The point being that each one of these things, being able to converse in Sanskrit verses like Krishna and Arjuna did, being able to be Shrutidhar, memorize and learn books just from your head, like Sutta Goswami was doing and Shukadev Goswami, just reciting Bhagavatam, not from any book. You never see a book in front of them. They're doing it from memory. The ability to compose with so much speed and so much beauty, all of these things that we hear about are not, mythology. They aren't like figments of someone's imagination or exaggerations to wow us or build our faith. They're actual fact. They're reality. And you can see it with someone like Professor Narasimhachari, who reflects that quality. Of course, not to the extent that would happen 5,000 years ago, but still, nevertheless, more than enough to wow us in terms of that ability. So, the final thing we're going to do in this seminar tomorrow at the end is we're going to recite about 15 or 20 of my favorite verses from these Prabhupada Shatakam, the 100 verses he wrote on Srila Prabhupada. We'll recite them together. It'll be good pronunciation practice, but more importantly, it'll give us some inspiration for Srila Prabhupada's contribution. Okay, so that's your incentive to be here for tomorrow's session too. We're going to recite those together. Okay, so let's see. This session goes till 2 o'clock, right? Okay, so at this point, let's pause and see if you have any questions about the metrical patterns that we talked about, how meters work, Guru and Laghu, or about the things I talked about later with Professor Narasimhachari, and then we will do some actual practice of the verses. Vaisheshika Prabhu?
Thank you. Some chapters of Bhagavatam that we come across when we're chanting the verses seem to shift quite frequently. One I have in mind is Gajendra Mokshana, where the verses tend to go from 1 meter to 2 verses later it's another meter. I just remember being in Govardhan with a few devotees and we were chanting that chapter every day. And I'm just curious about the overall intention of the writer, when it's moving so fast in that. If there are other sections that may be like that also, but could you comment on that about what the reciter is doing or why it changes so much from 1 meter to the next?
Yes. Do you remember the content of the chapter? What was, or did you mention it and I didn't hear it? Well, what was the chapter about?
Gajendra's prayers of surrender.
So, I mean, it's difficult to say in that we can speculate or try to get into the mind of the poet or of the many poets in that chapter. So it's difficult to say, but often when there is intensity of emotion, then meters do change more frequently. And so with Gajendra being both in pain, having been, in the grip of the crocodile for 1,000 years, and at the same time deeply surrendered to the Lord and feeling the emotions that must come from seeing the Lord, that kind of shift is very, very understandable. Sometimes it can be more of a less emotional reason. It can be more just a reason that what Gajendra wants to say or what others want to say in that chapter doesn't fit easily into 1 meter or another. So they have to shift meters, like with my example of Banke Bihari. You may have to move meters in order to fit what you want to say into a particular meter. So it could be more of a kind of a less profound reason, but also a poetic reason. One thing that Sanskritists always caution us that to never resort very quickly to the explanation that, oh, it needed to fit into a meter. Because the mark of a great poet is that they really can say exactly what they want to say in exactly the meter that they want to say it. For us, it's kind of a juggling act of trying to choose or fit one in the other. I've tried my hand as well at composing a verse or two, and boy, I changed what I wanted to say like 3 or 4 times. Before it came out into a verse. I started thinking I was writing about this person and ended up writing about someone totally different. So it's a struggle. But with great poets, we shouldn't ever give the just come down to the mere explanation of grammatical or metrical convenience, because that's really the last of their concerns. It just, like Narasimhachai said, it just comes to you in a particular rhythmic pattern, and that's it. Kind of like Beethoven, you know, when he composed and he went deaf as well. He said these melodies used to just come to him. He didn't exactly know. He didn't sit down and go, what note should come next, and struggle with it. He just heard the melodies and struggled to capture them as quickly as possible. So you see, when there's inspiration, at least from Paramatma, if not from Krishna, then that type of inspiration happens. And we hear this with Dhruva's story as well, right? Dhruva is speechless when he sees the Lord for the first time, and he doesn't know what to say. And you can imagine a 5-year-old boy, and so who knows what his Sanskrit abilities were like. But Krishna touches the conch shell to his head, and all of a sudden, you know, that inspiration from inside flows, and he bursts forth in all these beautiful prayers that no 5-year-old could ever try to do. So, yeah. Okay, yes, you had your hand up for a while.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So, in reciting Bhagavatam, we have only problem in the 5th canto, where there are a chunk of lines for one verse, and it's like only 3-4 words, all with dash, dash, dash. So, which meter we should recite those verses?
Okay, so good question. 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, line after line. The thing is that they are not in any meter. They are in prose. Okay, they are not in verses. Bhagavatam in certain sections switches to just regular prose. That is writing that is just non-versified. Just like like we speak, exactly. Or when we read regular books, Bhaktivedanta purports, they're in prose, right? So Bhagavatam switches to that. And so the best you can do is just read them smoothly, but you can't actually sing them because there's not a metrical pattern there. Actually, that brings me to an important point, actually. There's a style of Sanskrit writing. I wanted to tell you about this anyway. There's a style of Sanskrit writing which is called Gadya. And Gadya is prose poetry. So it is prose without the strict metrical pattern, but it has rhythms as if it's poetry. Rhythms as in it has all the special qualities of poetry. It is very soft and moving and rhythmic and a lot of different metaphors and so on. And it's called Gadya, or prose poetry. And several of our acharyas have written in such language, prose poetry. It can be very beautiful. Bhagavatam's 5th canto is like that as well. But I was reflecting this past Vyas Puja festival for Srila Prabhupada, that Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports are often like Gadya. They're often prose poetry. And this is particularly the case with the preface to Srimad Bhagavatam. You remember this preface? It's one of my all-time favorite passages in all of Srila Prabhupada's books. It's so beautiful and so powerful. And the very first line, what's the first line of Prabhupada's preface? Srimad Bhagavatam, you remember? We must know the present need of human society. We must know the present need of human society. Right off the bat, Prabhupada begins with a statement that is bound to draw anyone in. We must know the present need of human society. And the following question is anyone who's thinking is going to ask it. And what is that need? That's sentence number 2. And as you go down that first paragraph, those first 2 paragraphs, the language gets more and more and poetic. Prabhupada says that Actually, does anyone have it on their phone? I want to highlight a couple of sentences I don't have memorized. Thank you. So he says here, human society at the present moment is not in the darkness of oblivion. It has made rapid progress in the fields of material comforts, education, and economic development throughout the entire world. But there is a pinprick somewhere in the social body at large, and therefore there are large-scale quarrels even over less important issues, right? He's using these beautiful metaphors, assuring us that we have made progress, and you don't have to feel bad. It's a lot of progress, but there's a pinprick somewhere. And just like if a social body, if anybody sits on a pin, on a tack, is really painful. We used to do this to our teachers in school. You put a tack at the bottom, and you can't sit peacefully, right? Then he gets even more poetic. He says, there is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. Listen to that. There is need of a clue as to how humanity can become one in peace, friendship, and prosperity with a common cause. That's practically rhythmic. But the next sentence is even more poetic. He says, Srimad Bhagavatam will fill this need, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. I mean, you can practically hear the poetry in those words. Every word just, it's so rhythmic, it's full of alliteration, different sounds bounce off of each other. If you just look at it from the poetic perspective, for it is a cultural presentation for the re-spiritualization of the entire human society. Read this preface again for the sake of just poetry and listen to how Prabhupada weaves these words back and forth like a musical score. It's like an orchestra, and this note sounds and that note sounds, and he gives you a little metaphor and an image. It's full of these images of pinpricks and social bodies and revolutions and all kinds of things. And then after he does this, it's kind of rising to a crescendo like a musical piece. And then at the end, he tops it all off by apologizing that his writing is not good enough, right? His humility becomes the final ornament in his poetry. And he says that, at the end, he says, I must admit my frailties in presenting Srimad Bhagavatam, right? But still I am hopeful of its good reception. And so he says all of this beautiful stuff, then he apologizes for his lack of ability, which is just stunning in its humility, given the fact that this is such fine, fine prose. And then as if to remove any notion that there might actually be any frailty, the last, the verse he quotes, the translation to that verse, has pretty much my all-time favorite line from Prabhupada's books. He says, on the other hand, that literature, which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the unlimited Supreme Lord, is a transcendental creation meant for bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. I mean, that line, to bring about a revolution in the impious lives of a misdirected civilization, is poetry. It's nothing short of poetry. It's so rhythmic and so beautiful, right? So this is English Gadya. This is Gadya in the English language. It's prose poetry. And there are so many little nuggets like this. You know, you've probably had this experience where you're going through reading a purport, and Prabhupada will have this line, and that line is just frameable, you know, or in today's world, tweetable. You just want to pull it out and tweet it to President Trump and say, you got to read this. This is amazing. It's 40 words or less, and it's really, really good. There's one line like this in Ishopanishad in the introduction, where Prabhupada says something, I forget about this, Anyway, I can't remember now, but it's when you find these little nuggets, save them and keep them for your remembrance, because just like remembering verses in the Sanskrit, Prabhupada has given us poetry in his Bhaktivedanta purports, and that poetry is just as worth memorizing as is the Sanskrit verses that he's commenting upon. Yes.
So when you said that he did that, I forget what it's called, and the guy was throwing flowers. So technically I have two questions. So were the 7 guys who were asking him questions and stuff, were they also the title thingy?
Yes. Yes. All of them were title thingies. All of them. Yeah.
And when the 8th guy was throwing flowers, does it count? Does it count if it didn't hit his neck?
No, you have to be actually able to feel it. If it doesn't hit your neck, you don't have to count it. Yes. Good questions. Yes, Prabhu.
On Vaisheshik Prabhu's related question, where the meters change quickly is also in Lord Brahma's prayers. They really go then there's no, it's really you can't stick to a meter.
Yes. Yes, Lord Brahma's prayers, another very good example. Prayers by the personified Vedas are also actually prayers get a lot of different meters in Srimad Bhagavatam because it's really where the devotee's heart is at. When they're glorifying the Lord, they're really glorifying Him in those prayers. They're revealing their heart, their feelings towards the Lord. So while for us they may seem very philosophical and sometimes boring, for the devotees who are actually reciting it, they're deep, very intense meditations on the Lord. So if we take them like that, we can also enjoy those prayers a lot. And that's where you find the multiple meters, definitely. In fact, usually in the plot, you get simple meters, just Bhagavad Gita style. And that shows you the relative importance that Vyasadeva is placing, that the devotees are placing on plot versus prayer, right? Bhagavatam, the prayers are always more important than the plot. The plot moves it's often thin, it often moves very quickly, not a lot of details. Other Puranas will give a lot more of the plot, but Bhagavatam focuses on the prayers. And the reason for that is because the prayers is where the devotee's relationship with Krishna is revealed instead of in the plot.
One follow-up question, now that we are talking about prayers. I think it's a silly question, but nevertheless I'll ask. So are these prayers the actual prayers sung by the devotees, the exact word to word? Or, Vyasadeva saw in the vision and then gave a paraphrase kind of? So if you can just, it's a silly question, but nevertheless.
No, it's not a silly question. These are the actual prayers of the devotees. As we've been hearing, memorizing the prayers exactly, transmitting this knowledge perfectly, word for word, as we discussed in the morning, was not a difficult thing in Vedic times, right? This was such memorization, such perfect transmission was a common thing. And Bhagavatam, we know for a fact, was transmitted precisely, faithfully, in ways that other books were not. And so we can be pretty confident that these are the exact wordings of those devotees.
Thank you.
Just one simple question, Prabhu. Did you got that Lakshmi Hayagriv mantra?
No, I don't have the Lakshmi Hayagriva mantra. The point is, it comes in the context of Diksha, right? One has to take initiation. Just like when we take initiation, we receive the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So one can receive different mantras in Diksha. And of course, I'm very happily initiated and grateful for that initiation. So there's no need for it. Frankly speaking, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidya vadhu jivanam. Right? That this Krishna's holy names are the very life of all transcendental knowledge. So there's no reason that we cannot get any knowledge that we deserve to get through Krishna's holy names, right? It's an unlimited well of spiritual knowledge. So we really do have it all in this package of of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Thank you.
Okay.
And the other one, I think the one that you prose, you are mentioning that from Upanishad, all form of incompleteness is due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. Is that what you are referring?
That is a very nice one. It's not the one I was thinking of, but yes, that's another one of those quotable quotes from Prabhupada's books. Yeah. Okay. Many hands. So let's see. I think you haven't had a chance to ask a question yet.
I just wanted to. So I had a school teacher called Raghupati, and he was also Ashu Kavi. So he would be like in a very joyous mood and suddenly says, I want to blurt out, means he will say, I want to sing a poem. And then one day he challenged us to write in Telugu. He said, there was something he quoted like Kandam Rasina Vadi Kavi. So there was a different meter in Telugu. He said, if you write in that meter, it means you are a poet. And we all struggled for 2-3 days and nobody could write in that specific meter. And I also noticed that Shardula Matebam has ma sa jasa. So we say that it's masa jasa tata ga ma. So those three, yes. And another Prabhu had question. So do you have any audio samples of these meters which we can get hold of?
So I don't have any recordings of my own done with those meters, but online you can. It's not too difficult if you know which meters you're looking for. You can look up recitation of Brahma Samhita or look up recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam first verse, and in this way you can find examples of those types of metrical recitations. So it's not difficult. It's the thing is that the key is to recognize the meter. Then the melody you can use. I'm not much of a musician, so 1 or maximum 2 melodies per type of verse is more than enough. But some devotees who are more musically inclined, they can sing things in multiple melodies. Right? It's not the melody that makes the verse; it's the meter. So, for example, Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha. That's the melody we usually sing for Brahma Samhita. But you can also sing it like this. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhirabhipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shata sambrama sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Right? Different melody, but same metrical pattern, right? Because the meter is a feature of the verse itself. It doesn't change. But the melody you can put on top of it, right? So you can search and find different versions of that verse, melodies, and you can use that melody. But the key is at least get 1 or 2 melodies per verse down, per meter, and then you can recite that verse with confidence. If it's not fitting within the verse, when you try to sing it, you think, okay, this is definitely Brahma Samhita style, but when I recite it, it's not working. And the reason is simple. It's just that there's somewhere you're swallowing a syllable or adding an extra syllable. That's the only problem, okay? If you go syllable by syllable and you just practice, you can recite any verse. If you know the meter, you can recite any verse. It's just a matter of sometimes we get impatient and we want to do the whole word or whole line. But go 1 syllable, chintamani, and make sure you've got every syllable right. You're not making a long one short. Sometimes what happens is we do chintamani, and not with that one, but we split, we make the short long and the long short, and then it doesn't work, and then we trip. As we're reciting it, we stumble and the whole thing messes up, right? So we need to go back and go, chinta, oh no, it's ta. And it's not mani, it's mani. And as soon as you fix those things, it'll work, right? So it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of being patient and going 1 syllable at a time and making sure and then you can do it. You can do it.
Just wanted to add one last. So in our textbooks also, when they had any Bhagavatam shlokas in Telugu so at beginning of each poem, they would say ma, mattebam, shardulam, sisam. So they will keep all those at the prefix that. So we know this is this.
Yes, exactly. This is a very common way of even reciting the Vedas. They will give the meter before the recitation happens, so everyone knows how they need to recite it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for showing the preface. When we go out, we do the installation of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think many years before Vaisheshika Prabhu did installation and he asked us to read the preface. But after that, down the line, we if kids are interested in 8th canto, we show 8th canto like that. But never they are not satisfied, Prabhu. When we show the preface and they read it, it comes to the humility part, as you mentioned at the end, Prabhupada gives, and they are really happy after reading the preface. And I also observed that Prabhupada, such a scholar, he put that please, at the end he writes the humility part. Thank you for mentioning that. And one more question I have, that I visit the Balaji temple, they sing the Samaveda in the song, like in a song way. Which meter it is, Prabhu? Do you know by chance, the Samaveda?
So Samaveda has its own style of singing because they actually elongate and insert extra syllables into the recitation for beauty's sake. So the mantra is actually pulled apart and extra syllables are inserted to do a more, they do this sometimes in classical, at least like in Drupad singing also. In North India, they add syllables. They'll just do like that for a long time, and they'll add different syllables, and it's just adding to the beauty of without adding to the content of the meaning. So that's what makes Samaveda especially beautiful, is extra syllables are being added, which in essence then is not in the metrical pattern at all, because the basic meter of the Vedas is still shloka. It's still the basic 32 syllables that we know of from Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you. For last question, Professor Narsimhacharya, did he left other than you any descendants like your disciples like you who is in traditional of their?
He has many students, hundreds and hundreds of students throughout his life. I mean, it's incredible. I still meet so many scholars in India and in the West who are his students. So he really left a pretty powerful legacy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe one more, and then we continue for the last half hour. It should be green, the light.
So, Prabhu, I had one elementary question. Can I ask now?
Haribol. Yeah, this is working. So Roji, you just talked about meter and melody. That's what the question of mine. That sometimes out of inspiration, if some devotee is musical and he reads this verse, and he can sing that same verse in different melodies. Does it mean that he's making? If it sounds nice, does it mean that he's actually not breaking the meter law, and still the meter is same?
So sometimes the more creative melodies can ruin the meter. They can ruin the rhythm. And what we have to be careful about is that we don't mess up the difference between long and short syllables. Sometimes we turn into and into and then that changes meaning, it changes the meter, and then whatever we gain in terms of melodic beauty is not worth it, because we've just kind of messed up the verse, right? So we want to be careful that when we're singing any kind of verse or mantra or something, that we do so with integrity to the actual verse itself. So one verse in particular that I wanted to highlight, which was the Prabhupada's pranam prayers, right? Especially the second one. Years ago, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu wrote a Vyas Puja offering explaining the second verse. And it is one of the most widely used verses in ISKCON and one of the most widely mispronounced verses. That word in particular, Saraswate, Namaste Saraswate Deve, right? Now, what happens is we get all kinds of combinations of Saraswati Devi and Saraswati Devi, and people genuinely think that we're offering obeisances to Goddess Saraswati, but we're not. We're offering obeisances to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, whose disciple is not Saraswati, his disciple is Saraswata. Just like Kunti's son is Kaunteya, and Vasudev's son is Vasudeva. In the same way, and Pritha's son is Partha. So Saraswati's son or disciple is Saraswata. Okay, Bhakti Saraswata. So when we sing this one in particular, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracha. So we want to really make sure that Saraswate we get right. And then the second part, Paschatya Desha Tarine. Everything from Paskatya to Paschatya to Paschatya, we have to really be careful that when we do at least that mantra, because we do it so often, again and again and again, right? We want to try to get it right. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. You see the difference in that last one? Paschatya Deshatarine. So that you keep the right combination of long and short syllables. Okay? Okay, so at this point, I want to move on to the final thing in the last 25 or 30 minutes that we have left. That's the... give me just a second here. Oh, here it is. So my plan is that tomorrow we're going to practice going around in a circle and reciting some verses. Each one of you will have an opportunity to practice reciting verses and improve your recitation skills. Okay, but for now, I wanted to... we're going to practice with the basic Sanskrit verse, the short one, as at first, tomorrow, just because everyone's familiar with that, so it'll be easier to catch problems or issues in the actual recitation. So tomorrow, I'm hoping you'll get some real down-to-earth practice, and each person will lead us in reciting a verse with an eye to proper pronunciation. But before tomorrow, I wanted to just, as an ending, because it's getting late and everyone's tired and so on, that this might be a nice way to end, is I want to recite a selection of verses that embody different kinds of meters that we've discussed, some of the most common, and recite them together, or you can repeat after me. So if we can go back to the handout, please, and the page that begins with Bhagavatam 1:1:1. Not this one. This one. Further up. Yeah, this one, here. This one and the next page will do. Okay, so the first three are verses in the Shardula Vikriditam, the play of a tiger meter. Okay. Okay, so this first one I'll do, since I did it in the one melody the last time, I'll do this in a different melody this time. And if you can please repeat after me, okay? And we recite these verses. We have some in Shardula Vikriditam, some in Trishtub, one in Mandakranta, one in Vasanta Tilaka, and one in regular Shloka. Okay? So, please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, now, here we go. Janmadyasya yatonvayad itarataschartheshvabhignya swarat. Tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yat suraya. Tejo vari mridam yatha vinamayo yatra trisargo mrisha. Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Nice. So I just wanted to point out that this little apostrophe here is hiding an right? Amrisha. And up here, yato anvayad. There's an missing, which is why you have the apostrophe. But you should not pronounce that Some devotees pronounce that they add it in. It's not there. It's disappeared as a result of sandhi, which if we get time, we'll talk about tomorrow. But it's not there. And so if you add an extra you've added an extra syllable, it's going to mess up the meter. Okay, so never to add that apostrophe for pronunciation purposes does not exist. Okay. Then the next one, the next two, let's do on our standard Shad Goswami Ashtika melody. You can sing this with me because Shiksha Ashtika I think you're familiar with. Okay. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam Purnamrita swadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Wonderful. This next one is a beautiful verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and it describes the beauty of Krishna's names. I do not know how much nectar the two syllables Krishna have produced. When the holy name of Krishna is chanted, it appears to dance within the mouth. We then desire many, many mouths. When that name enters the holes of the ears, we desire many millions of ears. And when the holy name dances in the courtyard of the heart, it conquers the activities of the mind, and therefore all the senses become inert. So please repeat after me. Tunde tandavani vitanute tundavali labdhaye tunde tandavani Karnakroda kadambini ghatayate Karnarbudebhya spriham Cheta prangana sangini vijayate Sarvendriyanam kritim No jane janita ki yadbhiramritai Krishneti varnadvai Okay, now I want to point out a couple things from this beautiful verse. Look at the beginning of each line. It has something called alliteration, which in Sanskrit called shlesha, which means different sounds reflect off of each other. They rhyme. They echo each other. Tunde tandavani, right? You hear that? Tunde tandavani. The two words mean something totally different. Tunde means, tunda means mouth, in the mouth. Tandavini, it's dancing. Tunde tandavini, Krishna's names. Look at here. Also here, tundavali labdhaye. One hopes to get a whole row of tundas, of mouths, right? When Krishna's name dances in our mouth. Look at here. Karna kroda kadambini. You hear the alliteration? This kar, kra, then this da is reflected here, da. Karna kroda kadambini, and then that same da sound is similar here to this ta sound, ghatayate. And then you get the karna again, karnabdhaya. Again, that alliteration is happening with ka and ra. Look at the third line. Cheta prangana sangini. Prangana sangini. Okay? Again, anga. That alliteration. And then again, an S word down here. Finally, no jane janita. Again, that alliteration with ja and na happening. This is a feature of poetry, which is one of the things that makes it very beautiful. It's not just what is being said, but what is it suggesting when it speaks, okay, in a way that is not actually expressed by the meaning. So this is saying that when Krishna's tongue dances, Krishna's words, names dance on the tongue, but it sounds like someone dancing, right? Tunde tandavani vit ratim vitanute tun 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 tun. It has this dance quality to it, right? Tunde tandavani. That's the poet using the power of poetry to not just explain something, but to suggest a meaning that's deeper. This quality in poetry is called dhwani. And dhwani is the power of suggestion, which is the main strength of poetry. You see, according to Sanskrit literature, there are three ways of referring to anything. You can refer to it directly. That's called rudhi, direct reference to something. Where you can point to something and say, oh, this is a chair. Okay, so this is a direct reference when I say chair. That's the most common form of speech. But then, besides direct reference, there's indirect reference. That's called lakshana. And this is when you say something, you say X, but what you really mean is Y. And Y stands just behind, or it's indicated by X. Okay? So I'll give you an example. The most common example they give is Gangayam Ghoshaha, which means the village on the Ganges. We have this in England also. Newcastle upon Thames. London upon Thames. Okay? So it means what? Now, if we take the literal meaning, the village on the Ganges, then it means the village is on the Ganges, right? But that doesn't work, right? That's not what you mean. It's not Ganga Pravahe, on the flow of the Ganges. No. What you actually have to supply is a village on the banks of the Ganges, right? So the word banks or shore is indirectly mentioned there. But then there's a third thing, and that is called dhwani, and that is the power of suggestion. When it is not directly or indirectly mentioned, but merely suggested by the sounds involved. So when you say Gangayam Ghoshaha, a village on the Ganges, what you're saying is the village is on the banks of the Ganges. But a poet can say village on the Ganges to suggest other things. As soon as you hear village on the Ganges, what comes to mind? A village that is pure and cool, maybe as a result of the breezes from the Ganges, and maybe a place of pilgrimage because it's on the banks of the Ganga, right? So that is all suggested, fertile, right? That is all suggested by the word Gangayam Ghosha. It's not in the words, but any audience that is rasika, that has some feeling, will hear it. If they know what Ganga is, they'll feel that in the poet's words. That power of dhwani is the poet's most powerful tool, more than the direct and the indirect meaning. I'll give you one example. So in Kalidasa's Kumara Sambhava, this is a beautiful, Kalidasa is often called India's Shakespeare, although Shakespeare should be called London's Kalidasa. But he's really, He's a really beautiful, he's an amazing poet. And Prabhupada quotes from this Kumara Sambhava a couple times, actually more than a couple times, to describe the character of Lord Shiva as Dhira, that he's always self-controlled. But anyway, at this, in the Kumara Sambhava is a story of how Shiva and Parvati get married, again, after Lord Shiva has lost Sati. You know, when Daksha Yagya happened and Sati was self-immolated, then at that point, Lord Shiva became really, really distressed and very depressed. And so he just retreated into his cave to meditate on the Himalayas. And that was it. He wasn't meeting anyone. And the demigods were very worried because there was this particular demon they had to kill, and only Lord Shiva or his son could kill this demon. So they had to extract Lord Shiva away from his meditation. But usually the problem is when you try to extract him from his meditation, he gets upset, he opens his third eye, and he burns you to the ground, like he did with Kamadev, right? And therefore Kamadev is called Ananga, one who has no body, because he's the god of love with no body, right? This is the irony of the situation. So the demigods are afraid, they don't know what to do. So they finally decide that the best thing to do is to find Uma or Sati or again, and get her to remarry Lord Shiva, because she can bring him out of his, his isolation. And so they find Parvati, they find Sati. She's been reborn as Parvati, as the daughter of the Himalayas, of Himavan, and her name therefore is Parvati, means the daughter of Parvata, the mountain. They go to Himavan's court, the king of the Himalayas, and they're trying to convince Himalaya to give his daughter in marriage to Lord Shiva. In order to do that, they're describing Lord Shiva's wonderful qualities. Now, as they're describing the qualities of Lord Shiva to Himavan, standing next to him is Parvati. And they know that although out of proper protocol they have to speak to the father, they're also hoping that the daughter is listening, and if she becomes attracted to Lord Shiva, then the deal is sealed, right? So at that point, Kalidasa has a beautiful verse. He says, Evam vadini devarsho pitu parshve adhomukhi lila kamala patrani ganayamasa parvati. The poet says that at that point, Evam vadini, when Devarsho, the Devarshis, the sages amongst the Devas, were speaking in this way, Parvati, she was Pitu Parshve, she was next to her father, Adhomukhi, her head was down in bashfulness, because, these things are you're not so, you're bashful about it, marriage and things like that, typically in Indian families. And so she's looking downward, and she's very bashful that this is happening. And as she's listening to Lord Shiva's glories, what is she doing? Lila Kamala Patrani Ganaya Masa Parvati. She's got a Lila Kamala, a lotus to play with in her hands, and she's continuously counting the petals on the lotus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 1. She's counting as she's listening. And all the commentators say here that in this way, Kalidasa has told us that at this point, Parvati has fallen in love with Lord Shiva, that she has given her heart to Shiva. Because when a woman does this mindless sort of behavior repetitively, then it means that there are emotions bubbling somewhere inside. In Bhagavatam, this Lila Kamala is not described, but this is described, right? You remember this? The lady is scratching the ground with her toenails. The gopis do this as well. And this is a sign that they are in love with Krishna or whoever else is there, right? So this is the poet is telling us. And this he's doing not by direct meaning or indirect meaning, but only by dhwani, by the power of suggestion. Because something like love, as deep and profound as love, should be left to the power of suggestion. Right? This is something very common in Sanskrit literature all across the board, that no one ever says, I love you, right? Ever. That is that is so blunt and so heavy. It's kind of like hitting someone on the head with a hammer, right? If you have to actually say it, you probably don't understand each other well enough, right? The poet tells you that the two love each other because of their sidelong glances, right? How many times does Krishna give a sidelong glance or Radharani give a sidelong? What does that mean? It's a sign of love, right? This is how they say I love you without having to use the hammer and say I love you, right? It's too blunt. It's too obvious. You leave it to the power of suggestion. And that is the poet's main currency. This is why the acharyas bring out so many nice meanings from the Shastras that you could not look up in a dictionary. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, this sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. He says, give up all varieties of religion, surrender to me, come to my refuge. But he says, actually this vraja is suggesting that we should go find Krishna in Vrindavan, right? This is only Braja is where you can find Krishna. Now, grammatically speaking, you can't find that in the verse. It's not Vraja, it's a different Vraja. It doesn't work. But it's okay. It's poetry, right? And so it has the power of suggestion that is present there inside. One more example. This verse, Nadhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Count the number of syllables in the verse. The first line. Nadhanam na janam na sundarim. Okay? 10 syllables, right? Now count the second one. Kavitam va jagadisha kamaye. Whoa. There's 11. Every verse we've seen so far has the same number of syllables per verse, per line. Same number. First line has 10, next line has 11. The line after that, 10 back again, then again 11. It's an imbalanced verse. And that meter is called Viyogini. Viyogini means a woman who is separated from her beloved. Viyoga. Viyoga means separation. What is the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Separation, right? Whose mood does he have? Srimati Radharani. And who is she feeling separation from? Krishna. When you have a line with 10 syllables and another with 11 and another with 10, it creates an imbalance that something is wrong here. Something is wrong with the verse. Nadhanam na janam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktirahai tuki tvai. Already by the metrical pattern, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is indicating his mood, even though he doesn't explicitly say his mood until much later. Right? It's only Yugayatam or Nayanam Galadashudhare Yugayatam, really only in Ashlishyava, where he reveals his identity as Srimati Radharani in the mood of separation from Krishna. But already the suggestion, the dhwani is there in that verse, in the fourth verse with Nadhanam Najan, by the power of suggestion of dhwani found in the meter of the verse itself. Okay? So back to this. This is, you can hear the suggestion here. Tunde tandavani ratim vitanute. If you recite it nicely, you hear the dancing taking place. Krishna's name dances within our mouth, and therefore we want thousands of mouths. And there you can hear it. Tunde Tandavani. Krishna's mouth, Krishna's name is dancing there through the actual alliteration that's found in the verse. Okay? So this concept of dhwani is crucial for the idea of poetry, and we can hear that dhwani, those suggestion things, in the verses that we read very often. Okay, good. So let's do one more verse here, and then we'll call it a day. Let's go down. There we go. So this one is called Trishtub. It's 11 or 12 syllables long. It varies. Sometimes they're 11, sometimes they're 12. This is probably the second most common meter that you find. So Bhagavad Gita has this one and then the really short one. Okay? So please repeat after me. Matirna Krishne Parata Swatova Mitho Bhipadyeta Grihavratanam Adanta Gobhir Vishatam Tamisram Puna Punascharvita Charvananam. So beautiful, so nice. Because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. So this is the melody that I usually use for Trishtub. Na 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 na. But does anyone have another melody that they commonly use for these longer verses in Gita? Does anyone recite them in a different way? I'm not much of the musician, so I don't know too many melodies. How do you, Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava, how would you do it typically? My melody is this. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prichhami. Anyone else have another melody they use? No? You're pretty much stuck with this melody then. It's the only one I know. Okay, so the next is Mandakranta, after that Vasanta Tilaka, and then the short ones from Bhagavad Gita. But I'm gonna stop here, and I just want to give you a little bit of a preview as to what the plan is for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to start off with some practice. We're going to work through the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So if you have your Bhagavad Gitas on your phones or in hard copy, if you have, that's even better. It's easier to see. You can follow along. And we'll go around the room and we'll ask everyone to recite one verse. Well, as many people as we can. We'll get through the end of the chapter. There are many practical little tips and approaches that I think will be helpful in terms of reciting these verses in proper rhythm and paying attention to long and short syllables and vowels. And we'll get some hands-on practice for tomorrow morning. And then I want to talk about samasas, or compound words. We had one example today. Chintamani Prakarasadmasu is one word. Chintamani Prakarasadmasu. And then you get even longer ones. Samsara Dava Nalali Dhaloka Tranaya is all one word. Sanskrit has the longest words on the planet. And the way this happens is you bring those various words together in compounds. And compounds have a big role to play in our day-to-day usage of Sanskrit, because all of our names are practically compound names. So whether Pitambara, for example, is a compound word, or Madana Mohana is a compound word, or Gopinath is a compound word. So how compound words come together and how we derive their meaning, I think, is a very useful thing to do. So we'll practice those verses. We'll talk about compound words. If we get time, I'll introduce you to a little bit of sandhi, or how words change when they come together, two words. Isha and Upanishad becomes Ishopanishad. So some basic idea of that if we have time. And then the last thing I want to do is recite the verses from Professor Narasimhachari, 12 to 15 verses of some of my favorites glorifying Srila Prabhupada. That'll give us, they're all in Trishtub, this longer meter. So that'll give us, Gita will give us practice with the short meters, and then those verses will give us some practice with the longer meters. Okay? So that's the plan for tomorrow. Let's see how much we can get through. But I want to thank you all very much for your attention, especially after the post-lunch session. If you think listening is difficult, you cannot imagine how difficult it is to listen with a stomach full of idli and sambar. It's really a challenge, especially when the prasad is good. So thank you to all those who made the prasad and facilitated today's session, and to all of you for listening so attentively and carefully. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you again, Radhika Raman Prabhu, for improving the quality of our lives and our devotional service. We're deeply touched by your presence here and your presentation. And we thank everyone for joining us online and for all of you who came to the live broadcast here at ISV Studios. Tomorrow we're going to pick it up again, starting at 11:30, going till 2 o'clock. So please be here by 11:29 and 55 seconds. Radhika Raman Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gauda Haribo. 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 Nitai Gauda Haribo. Nitai Gauda Haribo. 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 Nitai Gauda Haribo. Vanjakalpatarusha Kripasanabhevacha Patita